Okay, we will call the meeting of the Healthy Neighborhoods Advisory Committee for June 5th to order, and we will roll right into the approval of minutes. So we'll need a motion to approve minutes from the May 1st meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Sharif Hudson, I'd like to second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay.
Aye.
Fantastic. And all right, so do we have any public appearances for non-agenda items? I don't think so. No. Okay. All right, agenda review. Tonight we are going to hear from 2023 Healthy Neighborhoods Grant Program recipients. We're going to get some presentations and we'll learn a little bit tonight. So I'm very excited for this. So. Okay, we'll roll right on into it. So I think I have a list here. Looks like the first person on the, or first group on the list is Boys and Girls Club. So you want to come up and talk to us about your year in review for the programs.
And I do have your slides. And if Scott could pass over to my screen.
Yeah, so once we get the slides up together, first we wanted to thank you for allowing us to be here and allowing the continued support of the Boys and Girls Club through this grant. So a little bit about the Boys and Girls Club. Our mission is that we are here to inspire and empower all young people in our communities who need us to reach their full individual potential as productive, responsible citizens. So that's really what we do. In a nutshell, that's a really big goal, but this grant has really helped support in that food security for our youth that we have in our program. So we do serve from in our Sun Prairie location. We have soon to do infants, so soon to do infant care, and then all the way up to 24, so beyond that college age where most places you think they would age out at that 18 age. We go beyond that to help them when they're in college and help them to secure employment beyond their higher education as well. Next slide. So our club provides innovative programs designed to empower the youth, help them excel in school, become good citizens, lead healthy lifestyles, and productive lives. We accomplish this through our initiatives with today we're going to focus on that health and wellness piece. So next slide, and we can get into kind of our big numbers for this grant. So through this grant, we were able to serve Fitchburg residents within our priority neighborhoods, which is our BRE location, right in the Allied neighborhood. So children, so age 17 or younger, we are able to serve 48, and 18 and older, we are able to serve 205. Outside of our priority areas, we are able to serve 3 children and 3 18 age or older. And then non-residents, we're able to serve a big number through our support of our food pantry and some of our other community programs that we were able to have thanks to this grant. Next slide. So the summary of our outcome objectives. So the food security needs of our youth members and their families and other families through community meal programs in our Belmar Renaissance in the park area, which, oh gosh, I should have brought my glasses a little better. But to be monitored via surveys and distributed counts. So to serve those food security needs, thank you. What we did was we were able to increase the food security for our neighborhoods by hosting 5 community meals in partnership with the Allied Dunn Marsh Neighborhood Association. In addition to the community meals, we also hosted our Give Thanks Fall Meal on Halloween, a community meal, which we'll talk about a little bit more through our slides. And then we were able to bring back our Sina Davis Thanksgiving meal for the first time in 5 years. In addition to that, these events, in addition to the expansion of our food pantry, which we supported through this grant, we were able to expand into our gym space just because of the need of the ever-expanding food pantry needs. We're definitely able to help our families, whether they have a vehicle or not vehicle. A lot of that direct area by the Boys and Girls Club is a walking area, so it was able to bring food security to those who may not have the transportation that they may need. So our targeted goal was 59 for the unduplicated residents. The actual that we were able to serve was 253 unduplicated individuals. Next slide. So our second objective was to make our food preference surveys available to the community partners and solicit idea of food items that they would like to distribute to community members. What we did at Boys and Girls Club was we were the host location in partnership with the food pantry, where we were the host location for a community group where we had 43 different community organizations from the school district, food pantries, and other community centers come together. And we were able to host a food meeting where we talked about where our needs were in the community, where we saw gaps, and be really collaborative in working together to fill those needs in our communities, and assess and create plans of how we can better serve our communities as well. And again, then we had that goal of 59, and what we ended up serving for individuals was 253. Next slide. So our third goal was to secure at least 3 new and lasting partnerships for community meal distribution and gather statistics with each of those events that are through the BGCDC website and with data collected and statistics collected by our organization. So in 2023, the Allied Food Pantry, which is housed in our building, was able to expand to create a little bit more of a welcoming area and welcoming environment for the community members that come to our center. So they used to be in our teen lounge, which was a smaller space, and we saw that they were kind of spilling out, and so now every Wednesday morning and Wednesday evening, we have a full food pantry. Today, I believe there was probably usually about 80 families that come through. So we were able to provide that space, which then allowed for the food pantry and Boys and Girls Club to bring in partners to be a part of those food pantries, where then we've had FoodWise and other community partners now be able to be a part of that to better serve our community. In addition to that, we did start a partnership with Little John's Kitchen to provide meal service for our youth and teens programs. And when they were in our building, we also served as a production site for their Meals on Wheels production and for their partnership with the Children's Museum when they were running that program as well. And then we have our statistics again, but next slide, please. So advancing the healthy initiatives, the healthy neighborhoods initiatives. So the BRP neighborhood is one that's historically has faced barriers in food security. There is a great market that is within walking distance, but it really is one of the only spots that really has that food security for the people in the community that is in walking distance. So anything further really is reliant on having access to transportation. Through the H&I grant, we achieved our project outcomes by supporting large community meals in partnership with the Allied Dunmarsh Neighborhood Association, as well as the support of our Sina Davis Thanksgiving meal and our Fall Give Thanks meal. Our Sina Davis meal, a little more about it, it brought in over 100 individuals where we were able to give them access to a full Thanksgiving meal. They were able to come in, and that included turkey, sides, desserts. We had everything. And we also included raffle prizes, art activities, rock climbing with the UW Badgers football players. So it really was able to support a really amazing community opportunity that we were able to bring back for the first time in 5 years. It also helps support that financial contribution to the Allied Fresh Mobile Food Pantry and the food pantry within our building. So a lot of increased access and giving them the resources that they need as they have a great need for the growing community members that are coming into their program as well. Through our community meals, we also were able to provide food for over 200 adults and children in our communities, including catfish and other meals that were suggested by the community members. And in supporting the Badger Prairie Network's Allied Fresh Mobile Pantry, as I mentioned, we were able to expand into our gym space, and we were also able to provide their sorting spaces where they sort their food for their pantries, and we're able to offer storage for a short window of time for them as well. And during this time, their mobile food pantry alone was able to serve over 80 individual families and give them access to healthy food options. Next slide. So as I mentioned, our Give Thanks meal, this was the first year that we were able to offer it on Halloween itself, because we realized that some people may not always be walking around to the whole neighborhood or be able to have that opportunity to do what other families are. So we were right in walking distance, and we were able to host 15 families for a lasagna dinner, a lot of activities that we were able to do. And this grant also helped us then this past summer support one of our community members, Katie Ferrens, where she hosted her basketball night. We were able to provide the snacks and the drinks for their basketball night that had over 100 attendees as well. So looking to the future with this grant, we are going to continue to sponsor and host meals with the Allied Dunn Marsh Neighborhood Association. This will also support our Back to School drive, which is for our members and community members directly in our area, where we also provide not just the back to school supplies, but also a meal that goes with that. Our Fall Festival, which is that meal that we will offer right around that Halloween time, and hopefully have a great turnout for that meal as well. Continued support of the community basketball program, and then again, our Sina Davis Thanksgiving meal, which now that it's back, will be growing every year. We will also be providing meals during our training week shutdown. So during our enrollment times, now that summer is about to be starting and we'll have that week of shutdown, we have meals and snacks that we are providing to families so that to get them through that week if they may need that extra food security. And we have continued to partner with Second Harvest to provide meals for our youth during programming and have been partnering with MMSD to provide breakfast daily for our youth and community youth during our summer programming as well. And then this summer, we will also be working with the River Food Pantry's Mobile Munch program. So we will be one of their spaces where families can walk up every Thursday and get a meal as well for free. Perfect. And I think that is our last slide. We really just want to thank the City of Fitchburg for the generosity and the continued support of our programming. It's essential to our youth and the youth in our community and families. We could not continue to grow and do the amazing programming that we do without this grant and the support that we have gotten from the city. I'd also like to say that every time that we've ever reached out and had any questions or any concerns, it's been, I think Tiffany agrees, it's been almost like it's real time where we're getting that answer and that support that we need. So thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you.
I was curious about that community food meeting, and you mentioned that there were some gaps in food that were identified during this meeting. I was wondering if you would be willing to maybe provide some sort of like summary email, maybe like organize your thoughts, or maybe there's like meeting notes or something that I could access. But I think that would be something that would be really beneficial for this like committee to, be able to see, if you're willing to provide that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Janice Ferguson actually really coordinated that work to ensure that we brought all of the services together to ensure that we're not duplicating services, or how can we best collaborate or support each other in this. And it was exciting to be in this space, and we're thankful to her for bringing everyone together and allowing us to be the host site, right, of that conversation. So we really look forward, we can provide you information, but we're really looking forward to continuing those conversations and really trying to figure out how to best support everybody, because we all learned a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of information at that meeting.
Yeah.
And the need is great.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the update and information. It's very, very useful for our future information gathering and discussions. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next up on the list is Badger Prairie Needs Network.
Thank you. I'm Tracy Burton, and I'm the Food Pantry Director for Badger Prairie Needs Network, and we're getting the presentation right about now, right? Okay, there we go. And you could just go to the next slide. Okay. We are located in Verona, and a summary of our 2023 overall work is that we distributed 2 million pounds of food in 2023, which is the equivalent of 1.7 million meals. We had 82,000 individual visits, and 13,000 unique individuals were served. Of those, 39% were Fitchburg residents, and of the 39%, 83% were from the priority neighborhoods. Badger Prairie is the closest, what we call choice pantry, to Fitchburg, and a choice pantry is basically a grocery store where the clients can shop and pick the food that they want rather than having food prepackaged and given to them. And so that's something we really pride ourselves on, is that a choice model gives people the food that they want and that their families will need, and it reduces waste. Because anytime we give people food that we select rather than the food they select, there's going to be some mismatches. And so that's kind of our claim to fame right now. 32% of the people that we serve are children, and 60% are Spanish speaking. I think it's important to note that we are a 100% volunteer organization. We have about 1,000 volunteers that volunteer anywhere from 2 hours a year to people like myself that are basically full-time. But we are completely volunteers, and what that means is that all our grant money, all our donations, everything goes to keeping the lights on and putting food on people's tables. Next slide, please. Our grant last year through Fitchburg was called Healthy Solutions for Ending Hunger, and the focus, of course, was food security. And we did spend $14,000 of funds that were granted to us. That was a portion of our $151,000 food expenditures. So as you can see, when we distributed 2 million pounds of food, you couldn't buy 2 million pounds of food for $151,000, but we have a really nice model that is dependent on both agencies like Second Harvest and the federal program, TFAP, on food recovery, but then we fill the gaps with purchased food, and that's what we used the grant for, and every dollar that we spent from the Fitchburg grant went to actual grocery purchases. Next slide, please. We serve all 4 of your priority neighborhoods. Like I mentioned, we are in Fitchburg, so we're closest to the Verona Road West neighborhood and to the Belmar Renaissance neighborhood, but we also have families coming from Southdale and coming from the North Fish Hatchery Road area. Most of the people, like I mentioned, that we did serve in Fitchburg came from the priority neighborhoods. We don't reach out to specific neighborhoods. We service anyone in Dane County that comes to us. So we're not actually targeting the neighborhoods, but we generally get people from that type of neighborhood. Next slide, please. Our project outcomes, the first objective was to reduce food insecurity. And in 2023 over 2022, we increased the number of Fitchburg residents that we served by over 200%. And then the program that the Boys and Girls Club mentioned, we partnered with Allied Fresh to distribute between 60 and 100 boxes of fresh food every week, May through December, to the Allied Duns Marsh neighborhoods. So that was a program that we actually took to the neighborhood. For the most part, the residents of the neighborhoods come to us. Our other objective was to increase fresh produce available. And in 2023, overall, we increased our produce by 123%, and the produce per person served was increased by 30%. One of our goals is to make sure that people are getting healthy food, not just food. And so we focus a lot on getting healthy produce, dairy, protein, things of that nature to our clients so that they have a healthy diet. Next slide, please. Another focus of our grant was to increase the availability of culturally familiar foods. And for the last year, some of the foods that we've offered, not all of the foods are offered all the time. Sometimes it's an availability issue. But we do offer halal chicken for our Muslim families. We offer maza harina, which is used to make tamales, tortillas, hot sauce. We did some surveying on what hot sauce people wanted, and Valentina was the #1 hot sauce. Fortunately, it's about 1/10 the price per ounce of other hot sauces, and so we are able to keep our pantry stocked with Valentina hot sauce, which makes people very pleased. We stock tortillas, we stock a lot of dried beans of various varieties, chorizo. At the holiday time, we asked our customers what they would like what they cook as far as desserts for the holidays, and most of them answered flan. And so 2 of the key ingredients for flan are evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk, so we made those available. That's not one of those healthy foods, but also you have to have some treats from time to time. And then we focus on having produce such as plantains, limes, cilantros, peppers, squash, and other produce available for our customers. You asked kind of what works and what doesn't. And so I think what does work is focusing on specific neighborhoods and knowing where people are more in need so that you as a committee can focus projects on those neighborhoods. I think your application process is good. I love the opportunity to make presentations both before the grant and after the grant. A lot of times we don't get that opportunity, and I think it gives you as a committee an opportunity to question us about things. It gives us some chance to kind of have some introspection on what our projects are doing and what our programs are doing. Your reporting is very consistent with the grant process, which is helpful. Some people's reporting is like completely different from the grant application, but yours is well aligned. What doesn't work? One of the things that's really hard for us is to figure out where people live. One problem, and I'm sure you know this, is people in Fitchburg lots of times use a Madison mailing address. Even though they have a Fitchburg street address, because their post office is Madison, they identify as a Madison resident. And so I manually did sampling of our database of our 80,000 clients and manually sampled it, and I found that 10% of the people that reported that they lived in Madison truly lived in Fitchburg. The other thing is then we had to take all of our Fitchburg residents and figure out what neighborhood they lived in. And I don't know if there's any mapping software. We had some mapping software that could pinpoint them on a map, but then I had to basically draw in the streets and try to figure out what your neighborhood boundaries were and then figure that out. So that was really difficult. I think for a program that's based in a community and has maybe a dozen or 2 dozen or even 100 people coming to it from that community, it's really easy to say we serve 100 people in this neighborhood. But for our program, it's really difficult and really cumbersome. And something that's going to make it more cumbersome is that the state of Wisconsin recently announced, you may have heard the news, that for federal food commodities at pantries, no ID and no address verification is going to be required. People can just walk up and say, I want food, and they get food. And so starting October 1st, the food pantries in the area are going to have to decide how they register clients and whether they have a 2-tiered system, one for federal food and one for other food, how they're going to do that. But if we follow the guidelines that the state of Wisconsin has set for us, we would not have any idea how many people we serve from Fitchburg. And we definitely wouldn't have any idea how many we serve from the priority neighborhoods. And so that's going to be a challenge. We also can't ask any questions about age, about sex, about ethnicity, about language. They can't be required to give us any information. And so it's just going to make it more of a challenge for applying for grants. Another thing that, frankly, across the board isn't working is the funding isn't keeping up with the demand. Our demand in 2023 was 220% of what it was in 2022. And yet funding from a lot of sources actually dried up. The pandemic era funds dried up. A lot of the funding has been fixed amounts where our need is growing. And at the same time, if you've done any grocery shopping, you know that the prices are insane. Absolutely insane. So that's kind of what works and what doesn't work. But I do want to thank you. This is a fantastic grant that we look forward to applying for and receiving every year, because it does help us fill the gaps on the food that we provide. So I'm open for any questions.
All right. Any questions at all?
Oh, I didn't do our future plans. I'm sorry.
Oh,
just
yeah,
a couple of future
absolutely.
things. I had a UW intern in the spring who did a guest survey of all of our guests, because we really wanted to find out where they were from culturally, and then what kind of ingredients they really wanted or needed to make culturally familiar foods. And that is feeding into our buying program now, rather than us just guessing what they want. And then also we're in the middle of a capital campaign to increase our space so that we'll be able to handle more food, support more customers, and then also increase our programs into other areas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have maybe a quick question. I really want to thank you for breaking out, what was working and what wasn't working. And one of the things that you identified that what wasn't working was identifying where people live. Now, I am very appreciative of your mentioning of changes in the future where we won't necessarily have addresses at all. As a former computer programmer, I'm always looking for solutions to computer problems. So one question would be if I don't know if this is possible, but if we provided basically an Excel spreadsheet of all the addresses that were in each priority neighborhood, would that help you match in your database? Or?
I think that could help, or
Yeah.
even, having some kind of program where we could plug, put our database in and, just the addresses, and it would say in or out or whatever. I don't know. We have one of our volunteers that has some experience with mapping, and so it was fortunate that we were able to get a map of where the people were, but then it was manually, basically a scatter map of Fitchburg, and then I manually counted how many people were in each area. And we did a sampling. It was a sampling, but it was still a lot of tedious work, and I just don't know if there's an easier way to do it. There has to be an easier way to do it. But then the other question is, how much work do you want to do? Is that important, or is it more important to put the work in to get the services to the people rather than, kind of defining, oh yeah, this person is in or out or whatever. So it's a matter of priorities. I think.
Absolutely. I see Sharif, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, hello there. Thank you again very much for the lovely presentation. I just have a quick question, and you don't have to go too much in depth, just a quick oversight. I was curious to know how you track your waste and how you manage your waste. So, outside of collaborating with other food delivery or food services system, how do you track your waste and how do you manage your food waste? Can you just go quick insight into that? Thank you.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite areas to talk about. As far as food waste, we have very little. We have most of the food that we take in goes directly on the shelves and goes home with our customers. Once things get into kind of like the day-old bread category, we move them into what we call the lobby of the pantry, and that's open to anybody. They don't have to register. They can just walk in and take bread and older produce, things like that. And so that's like stage 2. Stage 3, we take anything that does not have meat in it, and we collect it, and we have a local livestock farmer that comes and picks up all of our vegetable and produce waste and anything that does not include meat. And then the only thing that right now goes into the dumpster is things that include meat. We are collaborating right now with Dane County with their new landfill. They're going to build kiosks for collecting both consumer waste and commercial waste, and that those collection sites will then, the stuff will be picked up and taken to the new landfill at Yahara. And they're putting in a digester, which will actually compost any kind of food waste, including post-consumer waste, so like from our community meal, plate scrapings, which we right now can't give to the farmer. It'll take meat scraps. It'll take all of that. And so at that point in time, there will not be any food waste at all put into the landfill.
Thank you very much for that insight.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really fantastic.
I'm curious, do you have like percentages of like food waste, maybe percent of meat that's wasted or percent of food altogether that's wasted?
You know, I have it, but I don't have it like top ahead.
No, that's fine.
My guess would be it would be less than 5%, and the meat waste would be well under 1%. There's just very, very little that gets wasted, which makes me feel good because food waste is a bad thing. The one thing I can tell you, too, is that the food that we get from the retail recovery is food that would have gone into the landfill if we didn't pick it up. So we pick up daily at Costco, at Hy-Vee, at Target, Festival, all of the local quick trips, you name it, and all of the food that is just at the edge that they don't want to sell to their customers. We take it, we get it out on the shelves immediately, and it goes to people rather than either to the livestock or to the landfill. Okay, well, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the list is the River Food Pantry. I think we have Helen online. Welcome.
Hi, so good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. All right, do we have a presentation associated with this? Oh,
Yes,
okay. All right.
I have a PowerPoint. If I can share, do I have permission to share my screen
Yes.
with you all?
Yeah, you should.
Let's see. Okay, here we go.
All right, we're good.
Sorry, right where the presentation is covered by the Zoom. I'm so sorry. When I just went to hit start, I lost it.
No problem. Although, by the way, we did see the PowerPoint presentation before when you were saying that it was covered by Zoom for you. It was presenting to us.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, we're back. We can see it on our end.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate all your patience. Someday I'll be a better millennial, but not today.
Absolutely.
But yes, thank you so much. My name is Helen Osborne Senatus. I am the Director of Operations at the River Food Pantry on the north side of Madison. And yes, we were very thankful to receive funds through this grant last year. And just to give a little background about Munch, which is our mobile meal program, at the River, we have 8 different programs to distribute meals and groceries, and Munch has been around since 2016. And the focus of it was solely to fill, or the big focus was to fill gaps in childhood nutrition, especially when there was no school. So when it began, it was focused on serving kids, but over the years it has grown and expanded to serve anybody, regardless of age. And we focus on communities with low-income families, high density of low-income families, and that are underserved. And to achieve this, Munch, currently we run 5 routes visiting 23 neighborhoods throughout Madison and Fitchburg. Last summer, we were able to run Munch 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, and we visited each neighborhood at that time. We visited each one twice. And when somebody comes up for a Munch meal, they get to choose they have their options of different types of sandwiches, and there's always a vegetarian one. Then we have a bag of shelf-stable items like a granola bar, pretzels, fruit snacks, a shelf-stable fruit or vegetable. Then we also have a drink like a juice box or a small water, and then a fresh fruit. And then typically we also are able to offer individual salads that people can take as well. And then additional produce that they get to take home with them as well. And everybody who comes up is offered 2 meals, with our thought being that they can eat one in the moment and save one for later. But of course, that's completely up to them. The outcome objectives for the funding from this grant were to, over the 12 months, provide at least 5,000 of our nutritionally balanced meals to at least 300 unduplicated individuals, add an additional meal site in a new neighborhood within Fitchburg, and partner with at least 3 other community organizations to provide additional resources to Fitchburg residents that would be beneficial to them that we don't provide through the river. And just so everybody knows also, there's no registration with Munch, as you know, that can be a barrier for people for a various number of reasons. There's no registration, and so our van or our truck will pull up to the same spot at the same time on the same day each week, and whoever comes out for a meal is welcome to one. So within Fitchburg, over 2023, our meal sites, we had 4 located here. So the Pines in the North Fitch-Hatchery Road area, the Fairway Apartments, also in that same neighborhood, the Southdale, and we stop at Southdale Park, and then also the New Fountains Apartments in the Verona Road West. So yeah, those priority neighborhoods identified in Fitchburg. And then looking at our numbers, I know I shared our goals for the 12 months with the funds. So our goal was to serve 5,000 meals. We were able to serve just over 5,300 meals. And we did end up serving just over 300 unduplicated individuals within the priority neighborhoods. And then there's a breakdown of the 4 sites within Fitchburg. As you can see, Southdale Park was the most popular, and we're excited to continue at these 4 this summer, as well as add 2 more stops within Fitchburg. And program wide for Munch throughout the past, throughout 2023, we did serve over 31,000 meals throughout Fitchburg and Madison. And here are just a few photos of folks getting meals. So as you'll see in the middle, in the top picture, that's our previous vehicle, and then the bottom picture is our new vehicle, which we were able to get recently, which we're really excited about, and I'll talk a little more about in just a second here. And another goal was partnerships and collaboration. So we were able to partner with the Fitchburg Police Department and other community organizations at the Fitchburg Community Night Out. And so there we distributed munch lunches and fresh produce. We also worked with Mag Literacy, which they're a regular partner that we're really happy to work with, and to promote literacy, where we're able to hand out books, a lot of children's books and cookbooks in both English and Spanish, and then also magazines like National Geographic, People Magazine, just packs of them we get to hand out to folks. And then we also were able to work with Nancy's Corner and the Hat Ladies. In the fall, they knit hats. They sewed felt hats for us, for a lot of organizations, and we were lucky to be one of them. And so we were able to hand out really cozy winter hats to kids and adults. And through this partnership, with these organizations, over 100 children received these additional resources that the river alone isn't able to regularly provide. And Munch, it's a type of service to the community, but it's also a community collaboration, as we do depend on usually 25 to 30 volunteers throughout the week to prepare all the meals, package them, and distribute them. And so we're always, promoting within the communities that we stop at as well. If you would like to volunteer with us, or even just at the one neighborhood that we're at where you live, we'd be happy to have you help. Additional work we were able to do. So as I mentioned before, a salad, we make little individual salads with some beans and nuts and lettuce, and then some cabbage and carrots. And so just another fun, really colorful way and kind of accessible way to get fresh produce right to folks. And then also additional produce to take home. So here's a photo of one of our staff and a volunteer in our new truck with our produce display. And so after people get their meal, they're welcome to select some produce to take home with them. And we get feedback from within the neighborhoods that we're able to serve about what would be most useful. So just an example, a lot of times when we go to Fitchburg and also kind of the south side of Madison, we were sure to bring like limes and lemons and mangoes. Just those types of fruits are types that we're regularly hearing requests for. Another, focus of ours is sustainability. And so last year we were able to get a grant to purchase these reusable canvas bags. And so just encouraging anybody who came out for a munch lunch to get this bag and then use it again. So bring it back. And so instead of us using a plastic bag to put produce in, they could use one of these bags instead. And, beyond that, we're looking at how can we incorporate, how can we make sure to find a durable enough paper bag or another type of bag to use instead of plastic, just so we can decrease our own use of plastic as an agency overall. And then next steps, as I mentioned, here's our new truck. We're very excited for it. It's a food truck, really. So the side that we're looking at where it says Nourishing Dane County, one neighborhood at a time, that's a service window. And so that pops open with a sliding glass window, and that's where we'll take people's orders and provide their meals for them. Above that is an awning. And so if it's raining or snowing or whatever else Wisconsin weather wants to do, we can still provide the meal. And then all the way at the end of the truck, that roll-up window is where the produce display is. And so that has space for 8 8 bins, and so we can always have a good variety of produce there available for people to take home with them in addition to the meal. And this truck also has on board refrigeration, freezer, and a hot box, and so we're able to take things like yogurt or milk or cheese sticks, things like that, and also frozen things. So in the summer, take some popsicles or some little frozen ice cream cups, things like that. And also with the hot box, we'll be able to serve hot meals from time to time as well, which will be really great. And another piece for this, which actually begins next week, our summer schedule for Munch is increasing our stops in Fitchburg. And so it'll be the 4 stops we've been visiting, in addition to the Boys and Girls Club on Genuine Road and also the Mackenzie Workforce, and we'll be visiting each stop one time this summer. And then part of the 2024 funding through this grant, which again, we're very appreciative of, that helped with expanding the Munch Route in Fitchburg and also hosting hopefully this first annual resource fair that we'll be hosting at Southdale Park next Thursday, the 13th from 5 to 7. We have, 16 different agencies from Fitchburg and Dane County to come and just share their focus. It's things focused on, we have agencies focused on literacy, on daycare, seniors, children, just a good variety of resources that, again, we've heard would be helpful, but we as a food pantry aren't able to provide. And we'll have our Munch truck there, and we'll have a DJ there, some crafts. We're really looking forward to it. And so please help us spread the word. It will be a really fun night. Again, it's next Thursday, the 13th from 5 to 7 at Southdale Park. And then here's just a photo. The van on the right is our original Munch mobile. And then the truck on the left is our new and improved food truck, which we're, again, really, really excited to be able to have on the road. And I'd love any questions that anybody has.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very, very, very neat. Glad to hear of the sustainability efforts in reducing plastic bag usage, and the partnership with the Hat Ladies is really interesting. You never really think about the fact that people don't often have the hats that they might need, but it's important for sure. Any other questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation. I was curious also for your program about food waste, but in addition, so food waste, and also a question about, do you ever run out of food on a route?
Sure. And so with the food waste, do we have food waste or what do we do with it?
Both.
Okay, sure. Yes, we do. We do have food waste. As you know, I heard the end of Tracy's presentation. We also do a lot of food recovery. 6 days a week, we have staff out on the road, and throughout the week, we pick up from about 120 stops. And part of our agreement with retail vendors is that, we'll take us up to a low percentage, but of a certain percentage of waste. And so we do have food waste, but to try and make it as useful, still, even if it can't be for human consumption, we have a great partnership with a local chicken farmer who will come and get a lot of food scraps from us. We also have another grant that we've been able to put towards composting efforts. And so once a week, we have an agency come and pick up food scraps from our kitchen, from our meal programs, that goes towards composting. And as Tracy was talking, we are also very excited for Dane County to have an established composting program and opportunity that we'll certainly be looking at joining. And I'm so sorry, what was the second part of your question? Yeah. Oh, do we run out of food? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we certainly have, but we have very infrequently, we might run out of one item, we might run out of this type of sandwich, but if we're averaging that, okay, and this route, we're probably going to serve 150 meals, we'll pack at least 200 sandwiches of a variety. So we might run out of chicken and cheese, but we're still going to have peanut butter and jelly, ham and cheese, and a hummus and veggie wrap. Or, if we do run out of food, sometimes we'll run back to the river to replenish, or have a staff member from the river go out with, extra inventory to restock the van. Luckily, it's very rare that we run out of food and don't have a backup. And especially with the new truck, that will, I don't see why that would ever happen, just because we'll have increased storage capacity. And so we'll be able to prepare against running out of food while on the routes.
Thank you. I was also curious to know if you have any recommendations for the application process, anything that didn't or was extra challenging. And if you don't think of them now, I would be curious to hear an email form or anything like that if you have feedback, but yeah, leaving it open.
Sure. I think the one piece for us is, as Munch, there's no registration required for it. Again, just to keep down barriers and make the food accessible. It was difficult to count the number of unique individuals that we served. But I also understand, as a funder, you want to know how many people the funds that you donated supported. So I definitely understand the ask. It was just hard for us to do. We were able to keep track and keep count. That was just a little bit of extra barrier that we had to figure out. But of course we did.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah, please.
One way that I think you might be able to keep track of the individual, served, would be to maybe have like not necessarily an identification card, but a unique ID that's on a card that can be presented at each serving, and that can be registered and documented. So that way you can be able to kind of keep count of reoccurring personnel and also unique individual personnel over a duration of time.
Yes, I think that's a really good idea. We tried a variation of that a few years ago when Munch was visiting around 18 or 19 neighborhoods. And one thing that we found was a lot of the recipients of Munch are children. And so they just don't have a wallet or a purse. And a lot of times they would lose their card or wouldn't have their card. But, I'd forgotten that we had tried that before. And I think we definitely could try it again, just to help keep count of how many people that we serve. So thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Helen. Really appreciate it. Very informative presentation. Okay. Up next. Yeah. Thank you. Up next is Aldo Leopold, Parent Faculty Organization.
Wow, you got it. I'm going to apologize for my delinquency in sending a presentation at the start of the meeting. So thank you for catching that I did that. So I'm Katie Riggles. I am the outgoing president of the Aldo Leopold Elementary Parent Faculty Organization. We are a nonprofit which helps us apply for grants. And so I'm really thrilled to be here to talk to you guys today. We're really thankful for all the support the city of Fitchburg has provided for the school and the school community. If you can go to the next slide. So for those who don't know, we're a little bit different than some of the organizations that have been here tonight, in that We are largely there to support the school. So Aldo Leopold Elementary is a really diverse school. It's about 70% free and reduced price lunch and about 60% BIPOC. It's also about 50% Spanish speaking in 2024. So I don't know what the stats exactly were in 23, but they're not that far off of that. It's also a huge school. It serves about 650 students from Madison and Fitchburg. And then it also participates in the community schools program. So that means that the school is not just an elementary school, but it is supposed to be a community hub for services for the entire community surrounding the school, recognizing that that neighborhood is underserved and allowing the school to be a place to help resources connect with the community. And so as part of that, we're a little bit of an unusual parent-faculty organization in that we try to support the community school goals as well as the elementary school's goals. So we're sort of supporting both programs. So we do lots of things. We're not a very big crew. We have about 4 people who are actively engaged in all the time, and all of us work full-time as well as do this. So I'm saying that as a caveat to my underpreparedness because I'm feeling a little bit nervous about the fact that I had to throw this together really fast. But our main goals are generally to support the teachers. They work really hard for Leopold, and as an organization, we try to make sure that they are appreciated and feel loved by the community that they serve. We try to provide any needed resources for the school. So this is things we've never asked from you guys about, but I wanted you to know that we have sort of a larger program where we're trying to fill all the cracks that come through the school. So we do a winter gear drive. We ask for winter clothes donations, right? We try to make sure the health office has spare clothes for kids who need to change outfits in the middle of the day. Lots of things like that. We do support the community school resource coordinators' community engagement goals, so we try to make sure we can have free and open community events, usually with food, as well as activities that celebrate all the cultures that are part of Leopold. We have a social justice fund, which we use to help prevent homelessness in students. So we work with the school social workers to help pay for like rent or utilities assistance so that they can stay housed and stay in school. Because that's one of actually a really common, truancy is the wrong term, but that's a really common cause for students to miss a lot of schools because they're actually moving so often. And then we've been doing a lot of work through actually previous years of this grant where you guys helped us support outdoor education and increasing the school garden so that we could work on healthy foods and learning how to grow healthy foods and providing produce from the garden to the local school's food pantry. And then obviously we connect parents with the faculty and others at the school. If you can go to the next slide. So for this project for 2023, our grant was really around trying to get the community back into the school after the pandemic, trying to reconnect with our community. And so we really focused on strengthening our community engagement and some youth education and after-school programming at the school. And in particular, we were really interested in reconnecting with our Hispanic population because there was kind of a big gap there during the pandemic where the school sort of lost touch with a lot of that community. If you'll go to the next slide. So I didn't include what we said we would do, but I included what we did do. These are our achievements. So in community engagement, we were able to help support sort of 6 big events, which for us felt really great. So we helped kindergarten orientation is a way for parents to come in the school before kindergarten starts, 4K and kindergarten parents. It's really hard for us to also track unique individuals, so you'll see that these are, and I don't know which percentage, we're about 60% of the school is in Fitchburg and 40% are Madison. Madison has identified the Madison side also as a priority need neighborhood for Dane County, but I don't have numbers for like unique Fitchburg residents because I don't get to know which students show up to which things. That's beyond what's allowed for the PFO to know. But we serve sort of a large community of people for these events. So we had a back to school block party. We had a first time ever had a Latinx Hispanic Heritage celebration in October for that month of appreciation. That was really well attended and really a big success story for us. We were able to hold bilingual yoga as well as a bilingual mindfulness class to try to bring in sort of the Hispanic community, get them reconnected to the school and the school resources. And then we did do a staff appreciation night, which I was told by staff was really fun. And then for youth education, we were able to support after school programs. So we gave them a small budget for each after. We had about 10 clubs. And so that's about 120 students in the fall and about 100 students in the winter. And then we were able to provide both snacks for them, healthy snacks to have during the after-school clubs, and supplies and things so the clubs could participate. And that's during the pandemic, there were no after-school clubs, so this was a big increase for us. And it was really nice to have this seed money to get it kind of going again. If you can go to the next slide. So I feel like this does align with your guys' interests. We're trying to strengthen community engagement in the North Fish Hatchery neighborhood. We're trying to support youth education. And obviously the focus is that neighborhood because that's where the school is. If you go to the next slide. So I think our big success story here, to me, from the grant is that we really did increase our engagement with the Hispanic community in the area. One of the community resource coordinators is Latina and speaks Spanish, but she's fairly new. And so with the funding you guys gave us, she was able to really build a lot of bridges that I've seen. So we didn't apply for the 24 funding, but from you guys, we have funding from other places. But I've seen that continue. There's been this really strong momentum. We've gotten a bunch of other partners coming to the table to provide bilingual resources to the community school. And I think that was really seeded by the money we had from you to really bring the community into the school and really connect them with that community resource coordinator who can help them find what they need. So that's I laid out a couple things, but we had the yoga in Espanol and a mindfulness course by Roots for Change, both bilingual instruction that really brought families and adults into the school. And then we also had that sort of Heritage Month celebration, which was really exciting. Everyone really enjoyed it. And we got to support a Latina-owned business to provide the food, which felt really good. If you go to the next slide. So our next steps and future plans, we are part of the school, so we're going to continue to support the school in the things that it would like to do. In 2024, we did receive a City of Madison seed grant. So this is to continue our emphasis on trying to build some outdoor education at Leopold. So we're getting a garden shed, and we're going to be able to get to connect with Rooted for their gardener and residence program. So we'll have sort of a full-time after-school and in-school instruction available for teachers to lean on. And then we did apply for the United Way Dane County Impact Grant as a way to try. It's a new opportunity that was open this year. It's a 2-year grant. It's a much larger piece of money, and they allow you to put in up to 6 different programs across a big spectrum. So much of what we do, I mean, my fingers are crossed, because if it gets funded, it would sort of support all the aspects of the work that we do, and that'd be really exciting. So go to the next slide. You asked me what works and what doesn't work, and I always have thoughts. But the application is really simple, and you guys are wonderful partners. It's been really, for a really small organization that's largely driven by parents with small children who work, it's simple to apply. It's simple to communicate. You guys have been understanding if we've been late or we're missing something. Really a wonderful partner. I think it is always hard to count unique individuals, so I would second what a lot of the other groups said about, like, the school sits on the boundary of Madison and Fitchburg, and we have people in both populations. And I have a GS degree, so I actually pulled the census data to estimate the populations in the area that might be served. But if I didn't have that, there's no way I would have been able to get that information. And then the last thing that was actually really hard for me this year is there was a really short turnaround time from when the final report from 23 was due to when the new application for 24 was due. I think it was just 2 weeks. And I'm only one person, and I do both of those things. And I have a family and other things at home. So I couldn't get in a 24 grant because I didn't have enough time. And that's not on you guys. I'm just letting you know that short term. In the past, it's been about a month, so we were able to kind of do both. But this year, it was only 2 weeks, and that was a significant enough barrier that we didn't apply. I think next slide might be done. Yeah, thank you. The school's motto is together we can, so we appreciate you guys, because together we can. And I'll take any questions you have.
I don't see any questions. Great. It's good to know about the short turnaround, though. We've had some shuffling around of the way that the grant program runs, but that'll be good information headed into next year as we have a hopefully new staff liaison who will sort of help us through that process as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn that off. Okay, last presentation, Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Dane County. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. And bear with me, I am brand new in this job, and I did not write the grant, and I did not monitor the grant or turn in the report on the grant. I have been with Big Brothers Big Sisters for 7 years, and I know the agency well, and I know the program well, and I am going to go through some things that were put together for me, but as I also realized, there's not actually a lot here about our 2023 information, but I'm going to share with you about our program, and if you have questions, I am more than happy to do some follow-up. So the next slide actually has our 2024 information about how we're doing so far in this year. So I do want to thank you. I know that we've been partners of the city of Fitchburg for a long time. We support are very grateful for the support that we've been given over the last several years, and we are able to serve, around 40-ish. I think maybe up into like the high 40s in past years as I was trying to look back at some of our previous reports every year. So far this year, we're working towards a goal of serving 44 kids with the grant program this year. So we'll just move along to the next slide here. So we are working on strengthening connections between we call them littles, the children that we serve, and the bigs, our volunteers. Like I said, we're aiming to serve 44 in the priority neighborhoods. And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number we served last year. But for our program, we are able to know exact addresses and things. So I'm sure we have an exact number of how many we served. Although we do have youth that do move around quite a bit as well. And I think folks that do move a little bit in and out of the priority neighborhoods. So what we are trying to do with our program of one-to-one mentoring is really trying to strengthen that connection and that bond between the child and the volunteer. So what we do is try to provide them with opportunities throughout the year to get together. The program is out in the community. It's kids with a supportive adult, and it's just a little bit less visible than some of the other presentations that you've seen. We don't have a truck. We don't have a facility. It might just be a kid you see at the park with their big brother. It might be somebody at a baseball game. So it is a one-to-one relationship. So we try to provide them as much opportunities we can throughout the year. And because we know that it's hard. When they're first getting to know each other, it's, sometimes the volunteer isn't used to having children around, not sure what to do with a little kid. And so we try to provide those opportunities. So we have a number of fantastic partnerships in the community. So this year and last year, we are able to offer things like ski lessons at Tyrol Basin, sailing with the Hoofers Club at UW. We did an event, Night at the Opera, where the kids got to learn about all the things related to an opera production and seeing backstage and doing fun things like that. Climbing at Boulder's Climbing Gym, trying to, give them plenty of healthy activities to do. We also did an archery night last year and this year. So the kids get exposed to a number of different activities that they wouldn't normally get to engage with. And then the volunteers don't have to come up with all these, outings on their own. So we feel great about providing about 2 structured activities a month that are opportunities. And, if that's something that they are into, they can do that. And if not, or if they, don't realize that's an availability right now, that opportunity will come up again next year. We do know based off of our surveys that once the bigs and littles are, together for about 6 months, that might be all the ideas that they have come up with about how they want to spend their time together. So we'd like to provide those different opportunities. We want to create new community-based matches in the program. So we, like I said, for this year, and again, I'll get your information for last year. We have 29 in the priority neighborhoods that we are serving so far. The kids in our program typically are waiting about 6 months on the wait list once they get signed up for a mentor. And we match kids with volunteers that live close by, that have similar interests, to the parents, maybe wanting them to be more active, maybe have less screen time. We make sure that all their their priorities and goals for their child can be met with this specific volunteer. So that just takes a little bit of time. So, but that's what, we want to make sure that we have a quality match, and so we want to take all those factors into account. And then, demonstrating the impact and effectiveness of mentoring. We know that there are, so many successful outlooks for these kids once they have a caring adult mentor in their life. We do a youth outcome survey every year. So once the child is in the program for 1 year, we survey them and ask them a series of questions. We do it when they start the program, and then every year on the yearly anniversary of their match. And so the things that we see is that, they have greater educational success, whether that's like actually, improving reading, improving overall grades at school. We see reduced risky behaviors. We see increased social emotional competency, and, all these great incomes, based just solely off of having that extra adult, mentor in their life. I think we can go to the next slide. So like I said, for this year, we are working towards serving 44 youth, and we can go to the next slide already. I'll share a couple of stories. One is a big sister, little sister match. They actually met in January 2021, and so they have been a part of the Fitchburg grant since that time. Big sister Hannah just graduated from medical school, and Brianna, her little sister, was there to celebrate with her, which was great. Little sister is about to graduate high school in December, and she's going to go on and study radiology at MATC. And they really enjoy, this photo is concerts on the square. They really enjoy going to concerts on the square. And Brianna says about Hannah that she's just someone that she can really trust and get advice from. So it's lovely to have a story like that. A new match this year in the priority neighborhood, James and John. They met in February, and really trying to promote some healthy behaviors with the little brother. They signed up to receive a free bike with free bikes for kids. We partner with them every year and get bikes for the littles in our program, which is fantastic. So they have big plans for the summer, riding bikes all around town. And then are planning on attending our annual back to school event in August to make sure that little brother has everything they need to have a successful school year. Every year we provide backpacks, school supplies, other home and hygiene supplies for the kids so that they can have a successful school year. Last year as well, after a hiatus you can go to the next slide. After a hiatus during the pandemic, we were finally able to restart our School Friends program. So for years, we operated in 11 schools and were able to provide school-based mentoring in addition to our community-based mentor program. We always had a program at Wright Middle School, and that does serve some of the students come from some of the priority neighborhoods there. So we were very excited to relaunch our program at Wright Middle School last year, and we will be doing that again in this coming school year. So last year we did have 7 kids that were matched at Wright School. Two of them were from the priority neighborhoods. This coming year, we're hoping that we'll have at least 8 matches in the same, still having 2 youth, at least from the priority neighborhoods. It's a wonderful program. It took a little bit of extra effort to get back off the ground, but Wright Middle School and the schools in general have been great partners, so we're excited about moving forward and getting that program back up and running. As well as we have at least 9 of the littles on our wait list that we consider ready to be matched. That's that RTBM circle there, ready to be matched. So they've completed all the background checks, application, interviews, everything, and they're just literally waiting for a big brother or big sister or a big couple that fits the criteria that they want, lives within a certain drivable distance, and then we'll get them matched and ready to go. Next slide. So yes, I mean, successes, challenges, things with the program. We have had some internal transition. So our grant writer is no longer on our staff. Reporting on this grant, I know, was a little bit of a scramble because the person that normally does it was no longer with our team. And so that was just on our end. That had nothing to do with you all. And I know applying for this again and reporting from last year, we certainly just banded together our program director and our part-time grant person were able to pull that together. So I don't have any real feedback on the specifics of that part of things because I didn't do it myself. And, there was no specific takeaways that I had heard from anybody on our team, but yeah, we're excited to be a grant recipient again this year. We serve a number of kids in the area. Overall, we served just under 500 kids last year throughout Dane County, and we're our goal this year is to be right around 600. The increase is in part due to partnerships like this that we can get matches made in priority areas, but as well as expanding back into the schools. And we do know that from all the conversations that we have with the kids we serve, the parents, and just spending time in some of the schools already, that there's a high need for kids still, especially coming out of the pandemic, especially those kids in the 4th and 5th grade that kind of missed those critical years of learning because of the pandemic and virtual school, et cetera. So we are really trying to be in the schools and supporting the needs of those kids because hopefully they are showing up at school every day, and we are trying to serve them as best we can. And we don't always have the right person in the community to match with them one-to-one, but doing it slightly different in the school setting might be good. So we are hoping to continue to build that program. And I know we used to have a program at Aldo Leopold too, so I was kind of excited to see them here as well. So we do want to get back in as many schools as possible and just continue to expand the program to meet the needs of the children in the community. So any questions?
That was really excellent. Appreciate it. Understanding you had to kind of scramble to get it together. So totally cool. Fantastic. I actually volunteer with Bikes for Kids, Wisconsin. Okay. So the bike that young man got might have been one I touched. So very cool to see.
Yeah, that's a great program, and we love partnering with them every year. So
for sure.
I mean, so many kids just would never have access to a bike, so it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions that you may or may not be able to answer.
That's okay.
Really appreciate you coming in and explaining all this. I have a question about wait times because previously I heard a presentation that talked about average wait times in priority neighborhoods being around 117 days compared to this is data from, I think it was 2022.
Okay.
Possibly 2023. My notes are not super great about when I took them. But average wait time being 117 days, which is a long time for priority neighborhoods, and then overall 191 days. For the program overall, not just priority neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Do you have any sort of information about whether that has decreased as time has gone on, with this grant funding trying to help that?
That's a good question that I'm sure we could dig into. The notes I have for this say 6 months. I don't have a day on it for average wait time. But I think that might be for the overall program and not necessarily for the priority neighborhoods. So I can check on that. We did run a recruitment campaign this year, which we focused for 6 weeks, the end of February and March, to recruiting more volunteers for the program, and we were specifically looking for more male mentors and more mentors of color. Obviously, primarily the children that we serve are kids of color. And, reflective of Dane County, volunteers are not people of color for the most part. And who we're seeing mostly are women that are volunteering. And so we were trying to, show the need for more men to come forward and volunteer, and also trying to dispel the myths of how much time it takes and what all is involved and what the commitment level is. And so it was good, and we brought in a lot of people to inquire about the program and apply to be volunteers in the program, which is great. And we're still kind of seeing the progress of that campaign. But beyond the actual number of applicants that we brought in, we had a tremendous media campaign, and I think people were talking about it a lot. So even if it's I think we're still seeing the fruits of that labor come in. And we were in, places all over Dane County. Again, we had media that obviously has a broader reach. And so we're hoping that is going to continue to have success in terms of bringing down those wait times. Our goal was really to try to reduce the overall wait list. Now, our wait list isn't just a list of kids on paper and then it ends. There's always new kids signing up. Obviously, people are moving and transitioning and housing and things. And so, because it is a full application process for the kids and the volunteers, we do have a lot of information on where they live, exact addresses, and things that other of these grantees were saying that they have trouble collecting. We do have all of that information, and because we do run full background checks on everybody. So I think we could dig in and get a little bit more information about if we've seen success in these actual neighborhoods. So that would be good for us to know, I think, and for you to know. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then my next question you might have already answered because it was about recruitment efforts. And so you literally just talked about, and I don't know if you want to say any more about that, but I was going to ask specifically about in 2022, there was a matchmaker that got hired. And so I didn't know if there was, anything that came out of that showed success, but it sounds like, you've already kind of given an answer about recruitment campaigns and efforts. So if you want to add anything here.
Right. We brought in a full-time recruiter. I think her title is technically community outreach and volunteer recruitment manager or something. And so that has built our recruitment efforts tremendously in terms of just our visibility around tabling at events. It has also increased our partnerships with different other nonprofit organizations, corporate partners, and community organizations, which is great. She's actually gotten so busy that we decided to hire staff underneath her that we're calling a brand ambassador. And so that's somebody that's taking some things off of her plate in terms of just the general visibility, being out at community festivals, tabling events, things like that. We have yes, it has really ballooned our recruitment efforts, and we have seen the successes. I don't know the exact numbers, but a typical February, March number of volunteer inquiries we get in is if we're lucky, around 25 inquiries a month. This year it was in the 70s. So that's a huge, we need it to translate into completed applications, people following all the way through the volunteer process. But again, that awareness is so much bigger than it has been. And then we just have to keep up with everything. So then we have to get everyone interviewed, background checked, and then, matched right away before they sort of lose interest or get distracted with something else. But the recruitment efforts have been extremely successful, and our investment in staffing that has been specifically focused on that has been tremendous. Yeah.
And then that answer actually kind of helped me with the last question, but I don't know if you want to add anything more. But like, what are some of the like biggest challenges with recruitment? So you mentioned like awareness or lack thereof, and then like time commitment. Are there other like big things that you're kind of thinking of? I'm mostly curious to see if there's anything that like, you know, we as a committee could be thinking more about, or
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're definitely always needing more men. Like the boys in the wait list wait longer. They always do. And if a parent or guardian specifically wants a male mentor for their child, like they're just going to wait longer. We just don't have the same amount of men coming into the program. But we can match boys with female mentors. We do allow that, so they can have a big sister. We also have big couples and big families, so it could be spouses, it could be two partners, and maybe one of them is male and they get a big brother that way. So that those are opportunities. Sorry, tell me the rest of your question again.
You're doing great. It was just challenges in recruitment.
Yes,
awareness, time commitment,
challenges
wanting a male mentor.
But I also think that sometimes I don't know, maybe it's just there are some maybe misconceptions about how much time it takes, and what am I going to do with this kid? And it's like, well, if you actually talk to most grownups, they like stuff that little kids like, so, whether it's like going to the movies and seeing a kid's movie or getting ice cream or, shooting hoops, like most adults like that stuff too, but they somehow just can't get out of their head that like, oh, a kid would do that with me, and you're just going to like live your life and do things that you want to do, but you're just going to take a kid with you. But some people just don't realize it's that simple. I actually filled in, this isn't part of my job, but when the littles meet their bigs for the first time, it's called a match meeting, and we go through all the rules and expectations of the program. And so I actually did a match meeting a couple weeks ago, and afterwards the mom called and was like, I don't know, the big brother seemed kind of nervous. And I said, he did seem kind of nervous. I said, I think he's going to be fine, but I think he's sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do with this kid? And I did chat with him afterwards, and he was just like, yeah, I think they're literally just nervous. And also a lot of times our volunteers are like, I don't know if this kid is going to like me, or they don't talk very much. And they're like, the kid doesn't like me, he doesn't say anything. And then we call, because we do regular check-ins with the kids in the program, and you call and talk to the kid, and they're like, I love him so much, we went and ate ice cream or whatever. And so they're not able to express that at the get-go. And but once a kid, or whether it's us relaying that information or the kid telling them themselves, it's like it's just game over. Then the volunteer is like, okay, I'm fine, but I think it's just a lot to sort of like gear yourself up for that. And if you don't have nieces and nephews, if you don't have your own children, if you've never worked in a youth setting, it's a little intimidating. And this match meeting that I did, he's actually a doctor, optometrist, and he applied because one of his colleagues is in our program, and his colleague is a tremendous big brother. And I told him, I was like, he set a high bar for you, and I think he knew that too. And he's like, oh my gosh. I was like, just go hang out with the kid, just spend some time with it. Like the kid was really into sports. They were both into sports. I was like, get him outside, really basic. Don't do anything fancy, because this child, his father's incarcerated. He lives with his mom and his sisters. He's got no guys in his life, and he just he needs someone. And so I was like, that you just have to show up consistently. That's all this kid is looking for. And sometimes I think they build up these expectations, like I have to do something like earth shattering to please this child. And it's like, you just show up consistently, show up. That's what they're looking for. And so, it's hard to fathom if you had some other expectation in your mind. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, really fantastic. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I guess we'll move on to a report from department.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I do have just a couple of updates and pieces of information. As you know, the Teen Center feasibility study is continuing on. On June 17th is a public workshop for the Teen Center feasibility study. It will be at the Latino Chamber of Commerce on Anton Drive. I have a handful of flyers that you guys can grab and take with you, but if it fits in your schedule, I think it'd be great to see your faces. So Monday, June 17th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Wisconsin Latino Chamber of Commerce on Anton Drive. So that's my first one. We did receive the bids for the hub construction. The bids came in right about where we kind of expected, so staff is moving to the next step to go to contract, and that contract is going to be negotiated, will come to council for final approval, and then hopefully we could maybe even start some earth moving yet this year, but probably the bulk of construction would be in the spring. We are still working on hiring the community development person. We did a round of interviews, and unfortunately, we just didn't find her. There was some complications with it. We took a step back. We've shifted the position slightly. We're calling it the community development specialist now. The position has been reposted, and the posting will be still open until June 16th, and then hopefully we will go back through a hiring process. So we'll be moving in the right direction still to bring someone on in the next couple of months. Those are my updates for you all, unless you have some questions for me.
I would love to see the position description or the posting. Is that something that is easy to find, or would you be willing to email it out to us?
I can. It's up on the website, and I will email it to you. You bet.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Any other announcements? Okay, not seeing any. Okay, well then I guess we will entertain a motion to adjourn for the night.
So moved.
Is there a second?
No. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.